So I wanted to talk about my experience in Colombia and how amazed I was at the fact that there were so many Black people in Colombia. This is a picture of me in Cartagena with the Pelinqueras, and there were tons of Black people in the walled city. That's me in the El Totumo mud volcano located in San Catalina. Forgive me if my pronunciation is off, I am trying. But the people who lived in this area, all those people were Black. And I mean unambiguously Black, like people with dark skin, 4C hair, Black. When I went to one of the Rosario Islands, all Black, very Caribbean based, but of course they all spoke Spanish. I went actually during my birthday, so this was actually on my 30th birthday. I stayed at an all-inclusive resort in Bolivar, but the town that the hotel was in was predominantly Black, and the people that worked at the hotel were Black. Now, my experience traveling to Colombia was my favorite travel experience ever. But although I was extremely ecstatic seeing so many Black folks in Colombia, I did realize that there was a racial disparity that I picked up on, and it's a similar situation throughout our entire world because of anti-Blackness, right? So when we're talking about the hotel, the guests at the hotel were mainly white and non-Black people from South America, but all of the people that worked at the hotel were majority Black. I also noticed that some of the guests were a little shocked that me and my friend were staying at the hotel. Like, they were expecting us to, most likely not stay at that hotel since there were so many Black people working there. And in the walled city, I mean, we had a great experience going into the walled city, but there were the majority of Black people who were in the city were pretty much hustling, were trying to sell things. Nothing too crazy, but they were always trying to sell things. When they saw that we were there, they were running to us. They were like, "Sister, hey, I have this product." Like, we had to literally hide in a restaurant because the vendors were so bad, and they saw us as being like, potential profits, because, they were Black, they're Black, so they were trying to get us to buy stuff from them even more. Also, what I did notice in San Catalina was the fact that the Black people that lived in the area really benefited from the tourists that visited the mud volcano, and there were like these little side hustles that people had. So there were people taking pictures for us, and they were hoping to get tips. There were people who guarded our shoes when we went into the mud volcano. There were people who gave massages. Even if you didn't want one, you were getting one because they wanted that tip. There were people who bathed us after we went into the mud volcano, and I tried actually not to get someone to bathe me, but they insisted. So, we pretty much had to tip them in that situation, which is completely understandable. We're going into their area. I mean, of course, they deserve all of the tips. They deserve that for the services that they provide, even if it's something I didn't ask for. And for those of you who are confused why I was shocked about the fact that there were a lot of Black people in Colombia, I will tell you. Unfortunately, the identity of being Afro-Latinidad seems to get erased in America. I can't speak for the rest of the world. And while I am Black American, I am not Afro-Latinidad myself. This is just coming from my perspective. But I know around 2016, and I did go on this trip in 2019, January of 2019, but around 2016, 2017, there were more discussions on people identifying as Afro-Latinidad, right? But the people who I saw in the forefront of that conversation, and there's no shade to this at all, but the people who I saw in the forefront were people who were more racially ambiguous, and maybe they had somebody who was Black, further down in their family line, and they identified as Afro-Latina. Nothing wrong with that, right? But when these discussions were being had, I did not see people who looked like me, or people who had darker skin, or Afrocentric features, really. And that, in my book, is erasure. So when I went to Colombia, I just was not expecting to see Black people, really, that were my complexion or darker. I didn't expect that at all. And then when I hear people say, hey, there's no racial disparities in our country, but in America there is, it's very hard to believe when you actually go to the country and you see things in person, and you realize that the anti-blackness is global, right? But yeah, this is one of the advantages of traveling and experiencing different cultures and seeing Black folks in different countries. I think it's super important that we are able to do this if we have the accessibility to do it. And yeah, that's my story.